Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. As per usual, a big thank you to everybody, and I mean everybody, that liked, commented and watched last week's episode of the show. So before we move on to what we'll be doing this week, a little bit of an update on last week's episode of the show. I guess it was a touch on the controversial side, obviously. If you've not watched it, I suggest you do. So I wasn't expecting it to sort of, go gently into the night, shall we say, without any comment. Indeed it did. It was quite an interesting week, actually. It started off not long after I posted it on Facebook, on my Facebook page and the other associated groups, when a chap called Dorf Stockhausen left a rather cryptic Shakespearean comment on said video. It was from Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5, and it's the soliloquy that Macbeth gives, essentially about the futility of what the hell he's up to be honest with you. And it's generally called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, this particular soliloquy, and it's the one that goes on about life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard of no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury. Out of my schoolboy book of the play. I think this has probably got to be the first time I've opened it, probably since I was at school, I think. So make of that what you will. Let's basically be honest. He wasn't obviously being particularly happy about some of the things I said, which is kind of half expected it, to be honest with you. And anyway, then a couple of days further on down the line, whoever controls their Twitter account liked my tweet, and I'm thinking, bit of mixed messaging going on here. And then lo and behold, a comment appears on the video from Seven Seals, obviously their marketing department, saying, we're more than happy to have a chat with you about our technique, which I hasten to add I haven't actually taken them up on as yet. And then finally, at the end of the week, I get a phone call from Robert at Hyphern, the distributors, apologising for Dolph's Shakespearean quote, probably bashed out in the sort of middle of the night, full of sound and fury. And like I say, I expected a bit of a reaction. I'd be upset if I didn't get any reaction, to be bluntly honest with you. Like I said, it was the lack of transparency about the whole process, which, to be fair, I've now found out a little bit about, and I was right in my assumption that it has to do with oak particles or oak chips. These oak chips apparently are soaked in the liquid, whether it's sherry or tawny port or what have you, and then I'm guessing dangled in the barrels. I don't know the minutiae of the actual process because it's been patented, but hence why they use the term double tawny port finish, because obviously finished in a tawny port cask with the staves or the bits of wood that had been soaked in tawny port and then dried. So addressing the whole transparency issue, apparently they're looking to license this technology, hence why they don't really want to let out what they're actually doing. And apparently with the fact that Dolph's background is in chemical engineering, although he does own Seven Seals and part owns Langerton, I guess there's more sort of industrial espionage in the chemical engineering business, hence why he was a little bit, or they're a little bit reticent to sort of make wholly public what they're actually doing, although the information is actually out and about there. So, like I said, maybe one of these days I will take them up and find out a little bit more about them, the minute details, shall we say. But anyway, so enough of last week's episode of the show. We're moving on to this week's episode of the show, and it's a bit of a rock and roll episode, as you can see. So yes, it's rum. And when I heard that these two bottlings that the Kiss rums were being launched in the UK market, I badgered the hell out of indie brands for a sample, and eventually they kindly sent me rather large samples, which was really nice, so big thank you to them. Now, the whole thing about these kind of celebrity endorsed products is that 20 odd years ago they would have probably been met with a bit of sort of yeah, and the sort of feeling that maybe they were a slightly disingenuous product, possibly. But the thing is, these have been put together in collaboration with the band by Brands for Fans. Now, I have tasted other bottlings that Brands for Fans have created. There was the Motorhead whiskey, there's the Scorpions whiskey, there's the Motorhead vodka, just to name a few. And, you know, they are a quality product at the end of the day. You know, they are not basically foisting off, you know, some load of crap with a band's name on it, hoping that, you know, you're really into the band, you'll buy the product. So, you know, I had no issue with the possibility that these two bottlings would be pretty good quality. But obviously we'll find out when I taste them. I'm also looking at Black Tot. Now, this was completely new to me. It's been created by Elixir Distillers, so a big thank you to Elixir Distillers for the samples. Incidentally, one of them, the Master Blenders Reserve, I tasted when I was judging the World Whisky Awards this year, World Rum Awards this year, and which leads me nicely into the last pair that I have, which are from, or should we say, are called Inner Circle Rum. Had never heard of them, hadn't got a clue who they were, but like I said, these two were entered into the World Rum Awards, and I thought it would be fun to just put this little range together, because there's a sort of synergy in there which I'll get onto when I introduce the individual bottlings. And yeah, so I don't expect there to be any huge controversy about today's episode of the show, although anything I do say, of course, is obviously my own opinion and has no relevance or bearing to the company that employs me. And if I say something naughty about the Kiss bottlings, hopefully Mr. Simmons will not be appearing at my door wanting to kneecap me. So better say nice things, I suppose. Anyway. That's enough of the intro. So let's take a look at today's lineup then, shall we? Right, okay, so I'm going to kick off with the two bottlings in the Black Tot range. Like I said, produced by Elixir Distillers and their head blender, a chap called Oliver Chilton. The whole concept was to sort of create the modern version of the dark navy rum. Now, looking at the colour, I'm guessing that the thing that differentiates it between old dark navy rum is, well, the old dark navy rum was rough as hell, and caramel to buggery, basically. And judging by the colour, I'm guessing there is a distinct lack of caramel here. So we're looking at their sort of entry-level bottling, I guess, for want of a better word, which is called its finest Caribbean rum, bottled at 46.2, so no chill filtration. And it's a blend of Barbados, Guyana and Jamaican rums. Now, going back to the whole transparency business, if you have a look at their website, which you'll find the link below, buckets of information, loads and loads of information, and they tell you exactly what's in the bottle. And what is in the bottle is 35% 5-year-old Barbados pot and column still distilled rum from Foursquare, 40% 3 to 5-year-old Guyanan rum from Demerara Distillers, along with 20% unaged Guyanan rum, and 5% 3-year-old Jamaican pot still from Hampton. So it's going to have a bit of an edginess there, but obviously just with a smidge of Hampton funk, it should hopefully all be nicely balanced, I think. The second bottling we're looking at in the Black Tot range is called the Master Blenders Reserve Rum. Now the link here to the last two is that the Master Blenders Reserve was entered into the World Rum Awards, and obviously I tasted it. It was a category winner. Obviously when I tasted it I didn't know what it was. It's the batch, it's last year's batch, 2021 batch, bottled of 54.5%, and what they did is they took a batch of the 50th anniversary rum blend as a basis, and then blended in Guyana, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaican and Australian rum into it, and the whole thing comes out of around about between 9 and 24 years of age. And again, so added to the 14% or 14.1% of the 50th anniversary rum is 13.5% 17-year-old Guyanan, 17.7% 10-year-old Foursquare from Barbados, 3 batches from the Trinidad distillers, 21.1% 11-year-old column still, 18.5% 10-year-old column still, and 2.8% 24-year-old column still. The Hampton part of the blend consists of 5.3% 9-year-old Hampton, and the Australian component is 6.7% 14% from Beanley, which ties in with the last pair when I get down to it. Next bottling we'll be looking at is the first of the 2 Kiss bottlings. This is the Black Diamond rum, bottled at 40%. It is rum from the Dominican Republic, aged between 8 and 15%, and disappointingly bottled at 40%. But again, we're talking price sensitivity and the fact that rum distillers do have a tendency, probably more so than the whiskey industry, to be welded to this whole 40% concept, which is a bit disappointing. Then we're going to move on to the Detroit Rock rum. Now this is obviously again Dominican Republic, but the rum is aged between 8 and 15, so a little bit older, expecting some more maturity. Bottled at 45%, weird ABV, why not go the whole hog and go full 46%, I don't know. And judging from the colour, one imagines, if you can see how dark that is, a bit of additional E150 one imagines. So let's hope that the caramel doesn't have too much of an impact upon the flavour of the whiskey. And then the last two, interestingly enough, are called Inner Circle rum from Australia. Like I said, the tie-in was that these were entered into the World Rum Awards. Now, Inner Circle, or the brand Inner Circle, was originally produced by the Colonial Sugar Refining Company, who built a distillery in 1901. Don't know the name of the distillery. Like a lot of rum distilleries, didn't really, I don't suppose, actually had a name, because a lot of them were just basically attached to the plantation, just as a sort of like to use up the waste, I suppose. So when you think about it, rum is quite ecologically friendly, really, isn't it? Anyway, so Inner Circle rum was created, like I said, in 1901 and sold until 1986, when the brand was sold to somebody else, don't know who, and it promptly disappeared. Then along came another Australian company who purchased the trademark and obviously the rights to use the rights to the blend in 2012. The company was called Vock Beverages, and obviously they re-released the product. I don't think it's actually available in the UK. Haven't seen it anywhere in the UK, so it's probably only available in Australia and sort of close areas to Australia, I would imagine. Now, obviously this company Vock Beverages don't have their own distillery, so it's sourced from Beanley. Here we go. There's the tie-in, another tie-in to the Black Top, which is, I thought it was all quite kind of harmonious to a certain extent, which is why I picked these bottlings. So it's like I say, it's from Beanley. It's basically pot distilled, aged in American oak, 200 litre ex bourbon barrels for 5 years, and then finished with a dash of 10-year-old spirit. So interesting. I think certainly I think it was was it the cask strength or the naval strength? I forget which one it was that was the actual category winner of I think it was the 11 years old and under. And so we're looking at the first bottling, which is their navy strength, 57.2%, and the second bottle, the final one, keep the strong one till the end, 75.9. This is their cask strength version. And this is the weird dichotomy of rum, isn't it? At the one end you have this kind of obsession with 40%, and at the other end you have all these extremely alcoholic sort of cask strength bottlings, and because obviously a lot of them are column still distilled, they come off at one hell of a bloody ABV off the still. I mean, even so, I mean, this is, like I said, pot still distilled, and they're getting that off at sort of, almost close to 80%. I mean, yeah, God. And like I said, this is the sort of weirdness about the rum industry. These wonderful sort of extremes, shall we say. So yeah, really looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a good episode of the show, and let's kick off with a bit of black.
You get the blues when you need new shoes, and you smile like
right. Okay, so this is the Black Tot Finest, bottled at 46.2%. Let's see what the nose gives us on this end, shall we? Right, straight off the bat, Hampton Funk. I mean, it's there, it's noticeable, and considering it's only 5% of the blend, it punches above its weight, as we well know. But there's a lovely complexity here. We've got some column still lighter dried fruits, sultana, vanilla, coffee, touch of toffee, and so you're getting the elements there, so you obviously get the Hampton. I'm getting the elegance of Foursquare, and that lovely sort of richness from Guyana. Like I say, it does kind of obviously have more column still character, but then that's the sort of, I would guess, the largest proportion of the blend. But it's got that lightness, that elegance. It's a lovely, lovely nose, real depth, and you can pick up all the sort of the individual characteristics, and they're balanced and blended amazingly well, it has to be said. See what pass right. Rich but citric, molasses, chewy dark dried fruit, lighter column still dried fruit. Again, bit of Hampton Funk, certainly coming through on the finish. Lovely spiciness, lovely intensity. Getting a little bit of an almost agricole kind of herbalness, which I'm guessing is possibly coming from the Guyanan element, probably from the unaged element to it. I mean, that's 20% of the blend, so that's certainly going to have an impact, and it certainly does. And overall, this is just a lovely rum. Forget what it retails for, but it's not overly expensive. Great intensity, it has to be said. And I remember when I first tasted this, I was thinking, wow, that's got one hell of an intensity. What's the cask strength version going to be like? And then, then I tasted it. Well, not necessarily. I imagine it probably is the Blender's Reserve. It's probably close to cask strength, considering the ages of the spirits that have gone into it. But anyway, we're talking about the Black Tot Finest, and that is lovely, really good. Right, okay, so let's move on to the Master Blender's Reserve. Like I said, bottled at 54.5%, spirits aged between 9 and 24 years of age. Let's see what the nose gives us. Oh, wow, that's a stunning nose. Again, it kicks off with a Hampton. I mean, I'm getting that lovely Hampton funkiness, which on its own, it can be a little bit too hard going, it has to be said. So I've often found that, having something to kind of balance up the funkiness, give it a bit of sweetness, just works really nicely. It's just got a lovely, mature, almost kind of cognac-esque, elegant nose of dried fruit, dried tropical fruit, apricot, pineapple, vanilla, toasted oak, pepper, cardamom. Oh, wow, this is complex. I mean, it is stunning. It really is. Again, you can pick up all the individual notes to a certain extent. Certainly, the Hampton is noticeable. The elegance of the Foursquare, the richness of the Trinidad. Oh, spiciness! I mean, this is not a cheap bottle of rum. I forget what what it would retail for, but oh my word, that's incredible. Let's see what the palate's like. Wow, what a length! Soft, smooth, beautiful blend of pot still and column still dried fruits, lighter and dark dried fruits, full tropical, mature tropical. So we're not talking sort of, you know, pineapple juice and all that kind of thing. We're talking mature sort of pineapple, apricot. Lovely spiciness. The Hampton funk is there, but it's really contained. It just adds this edginess to the mid palate, and just is balanced up by the sort of the richness and the elegance of the Barbados, and the richness and the depth of the Trinidadian rum. The length is stunning. I mean, it doesn't read water at all. I mean, it's got a lovely spiciness and vibrancy. It is absolutely gorgeous, and if you like good rum, I do, give it a try, because you will not be disappointed. That is absolutely stunning. Right, okay, let's move on to the Detroit Rock Rum then. Let's see what the nose gives us on this one. It's a tad shy, it's soft, it's smooth, molasses. There's a little caramel going on there, I think. There's some column still notes. I mean, again, it's not hugely expensive. I must admit, I don't kind of quite know why they opted to bottle this in a 50cl bottle. I mean, it's about 36, 37 quid. You would have thought that the more expensive bottle would have been, but you know, so I don't know. It's a bit weird, it has to be said. It takes a little while to kind of warm up. A little bit of green pepper, cardamom, a bit of herbal spice, a bit of dusty spice. I mean, it's got some obvious maturity. It's not the most complex rum I've ever come across in my entire life. But you know, if you're into the band and you want to buy the product, you're not going to be disappointed. And I suppose to a certain extent they've kind of made it in a safe style. It's not weird and funky and all that kind of thing. It's a safe style of rum. It's, you know, geared towards, you know, consumers that may well have not have had rum or drunk rum, but obviously they like Kiss and they think, oh yeah, we'll buy that one. I'm hoping that it's a springboard, that they would sort of go, yeah, that's actually really very nice, and then they would start to develop, you know, and look for other things. So as an entry level product, entry level into the whole rum market, yeah, no, I think that's not too shabby. See what the pass on. Sweet, rich, I guess probably some sweetening post distillation, but then that, to me, not an issue. I mean, one of the biggest selling brands is the Diplomatico, which they do that, and obviously it's because consumers have a sweet tooth, like it a bit sweet. It's a bit more interesting on the palate, a little bit more going for it. Again, molassesy sort of dark fruit, little bit of column still, nippiness. Peppery, quite softly spiced on the finish, full, rich, a little bit, not quite cloying, but a little bit overly sweet for my personal taste on the end. But you know what, I wouldn't have an issue with selling that. I mean, it's like I say, it's a perfectly well made product, and if it leads the consumer into sort of, you know, trying out things like Black Top, for example, then brilliant. It's certainly sort of done its job. So yeah, okay, I'm down with that, as they say. Right, okay, so let's move on to the second of the Kiss rums. This is the Detroit Rock. Let's see what the nose gives us on this then, shall we? A bit deeper, a bit more complex, more spice, more darker fruits, a little bit of orange coming through, touch of wood charred toast. Actually, it's got a lovely spiciness. This is actually really pretty good. It's got more complexity, a little bit more maturity than the previous bottling, which is not a surprise. I mean, I'm guessing that in in this one, the Black Diamond rum, it's probably the 15-year-old element is probably about 5%, whereas in this particular bottling, there's a lot more of it. So yeah, it's definitely got more complexity, more maturity on the nose. And again, it's got that lovely kind of fruitiness. It's a sort of an easygoing rum. It's a sort of rum that that I think, you know, if again you try the first one, you think, yeah, I really like that one. You move up to the Detroit Rock rum, a little bit more complexity, a little bit more interest, and then a springboard on from there, I think. So I think this is about, what, 47, 48 quid. Again, yeah, not a problem with that at all. Let's see what the pass on. Oh, that's got a lovely finish to it. Lovely spiciness. Richness throughout, quite sweet again, but not quite as cloying as the Black Diamond. Lots more spice, more cardamom, more pepper. Again, darker dried fruits, a little bit more molassy character, possibly a little less column still, a little bit more pot still weight. You know what, I really like that. It's, you know, if I wanted a glass of rum and I wasn't in the mood for sort of like, you know, being challenged by it, should we say, I'd more than happily drink that. Well, I have drunk quite a bit of it in actual fact. Yeah, I like that. I think that's really quite impressive. I mean, now with said retailer's hat on, I kind of ummed and ahed, should we say, about whether to go for both bottlings. I thought, well, do I just concentrate on the Detroit Rock rum, and in the end I basically said, no, let's go for both of them. You know, they fulfill you know, a sort of a gap, wrong word, you know, there's an obvious reasoning for having both of these bottles, so, you know, with said retailer's hat on, they will be, you know, on the shelves of a certain merchant, which obviously indie brands are probably quite happy about, I think, certainly after sending me full bottles, and you know, it's, I wouldn't say that you know, a company sends you full bottles with the expectation of sending you generous amounts of liquid that you will actually then buy it. But the point being is, there is, I wouldn't say that kind of sways one's judgment, but obviously when thinking about sort of stocking a product, you have to take everything into consideration at the end of the day, not only the quality of the juice, the retail price, all that kind of stuff, and of course, you know, whether or not you have a relationship to a certain extent with the distillery or the company or what have you. So it's not just about sort of tasting it, going, yeah, that's great, I'll buy that. There are obviously other factors involved as well. But anyway, I shouldn't really be talking about that, should I? Because obviously this show has nothing to do at all to do with any company that retails said merchandise. let's just... Right, okay, so let's move on to the first of the two inner circle bottlings. This is the Navy Strength, 57.2%. Oh, I like that. Right, so this is completely different to the others. It's really tropical. Guava, apricot, pineapple, nutty oak, bit of cinnamon sticks, spice, burnt wood. Certainly getting some distinct rye-like notes, which is obviously coming from the cask. Bourbon-y vanilla. The oak does start to come through a little stronger as it sits in the glass. It's becoming a little oaky, but certainly if you give it a bit of an aeration, you then get back to that sort of lovely tropical dried fruits and nutty oak, rather than the sort of the overt bourbon-y sort of vanilla oak. But on the whole, I really like this. I think this is a very, very impressive nose. Let's do it, pass on. Damn, that's good. Juicy, apricot, mango, pineapple. That's a real fruit salad, it has to be said. But again, it's not too sweet, it's natural. Certainly there's no sweetness added to this, there's no caramel. Again, the oak is a bit on the heavy side. It really comes through on the mid palate and through into the finish. Quite bourbon-y. I get that rye-like sort of spice notes. But there's a nice floral note happening as well, a little bit of a, not violets, but sort of getting towards a sort of a violet-y kind of note. A little bit of burnt wood as well, really complex, and you know, 57% and no alcohol burn. You could quite happily dangerously drink that, I can tell you. Let's put a little drop of water with it and just see what that does to it. Like I said, don't think it actually really needs any water at all, which, like I said, is pretty damn scary, really, isn't it? It's kind of brought out the oak a lot more. I've lost sort of the inherent sort of tropical fruit notes, and I mean, they're still there, but the oak has become the sort of the main focal point of it, which is, you know, a little bit of a letdown. So we'll pass on then. It's still chewy, it's a little homogeneous now. It's a little, again, the water has emphasised the oak and just brought it forward. So it's a bit, yeah, a bit, wouldn't quite say flat, homogeneous. It's just done, there's no kind of light and shade anymore, it has to be said. It's a little bit one-dimensional, a little bit oaky. So, you know, forget putting the water with it. I mean, it doesn't really need it. I mean, I'm probably being a little disingenuous to it by putting water with it, has to be said, because it doesn't need it. Like I said, which is pretty scary considering the ABV of it, and that's just so easy to drink neat. I mean, ooh. Okay, let's move on to the Cask Strength, 75.9%. Wonder how easy this is to drink neat then. Let's see what the nose gives us. More intensity, darker, woodier, more raisinated fruit, distinct heavy raisinated pot still molasses. It's tight. No disputing the fact that this is quite high in alcohol, it has to be said. Again, the oak is there, it's just well under control. There's a little sort of sweet vanilla, sweet corn note. Again, it's sat in the glass, that oak is kind of coming through quite strongly now. So I'm guessing that this is probably, or they use an awful lot of first fill bourbon. but this has more intensity. This neat. This is obviously standing up. The spirit's standing up to that oak pretty well. I love the darkness. I love that burnt wood note that's kind of coming through. So pass on. Well, there's no doubt about the alcohol on that. I can tell you that for a fact. I mean, whoa. My mouth is salivating, it's watering, it's intense, slightly bitter, spicy, dark, raisinated fruits. The oak is kind of trying to come through on the finish, but my God, that oak, the alcohol has just kept that in a vice. Spices are just hammering my tongue. I mean, stunning intensity, it has to be said. I mean, the intensity is off the charts. I mean, alright, that alcohol is probably compromising the complexity, it has to be said. That's one hell of a hit. I mean, that really is an intense mouthful. Violets, bitterness, bitter coffee, dark chocolate on the finish. I mean, you know when you've had a drop of that. I can tell you that for you know, it is seriously impressive. But let's see how it takes water then, shall we? Okay, yeah, I mean it's not falling apart, which is good. It's a little bit softer. It's still pretty intense. It's still spicy. It's woody. It's dark. It's still spicy. It's smoky. Getting quite a smokiness now. Really nice. So pass on. Softer, sweeter, again more oak. If I'm going to be really critical, a little confected, but again spicy, lovely intensity, mouth watering, little sweeter. I can feel it kind of coating my lips now, but again it's not, it doesn't feel like an unnatural sweetness or a sort of an added to sweetness. Balance is still really good, really intense. Fabulous rum, it has to be said.
And her kiss just like.
Right, okay, so let's sum today's episode of the show. So, firstly, a big thank you to Elixir Distillers, to Indie Brands for the samples they kindly sent. Obviously, no contact with Right, okay, so let's sum today's episode of the show. Firstly, a big thank you to the companies and obviously the World Whisky Awards for inviting me to be a judge. Right, okay, so let's sum today's episode of the show up. Well, I think it's bloody good tasting. I'm seriously impressed by all of them, it has to be said. So a big thank you to those involved, the distributors and the World Rum Awards, for the samples for today's episode of the show. Loved the Black Top. Really very impressed by that. Beautiful blend, really harmonious, great price point, I think. Not too expensive, really worth checking out. Or Master Blenders Master Blenders Reserve Rum, stunning. Absolutely stunning. Can't praise that highly enough. I really was blown away when I tasted that. And you know, if you love a great bottle of rum, buy a bottle of that. The Black Diamond rum, yeah, okay, no issues with the quality of that. I mean, okay, maybe I was doing a bit of a disservice as it came after something so incredibly complex, and you know, I suppose in this sort of tasting it did show up its shortcomings, but it does a job. It's not too expensive, more than happy with that. Detroit Rock rum, of the two, the more complex, the more interesting, certainly the one that I would opt to sort of drink myself, and I've got no problem with that at all. Again, a lovely rum, and you know, just because it's been endorsed by the band, you know, shouldn't dissuade you from purchasing it, should we say. The two inner circles. The cask strength, the navy strength, yeah, okay, a little over oaked, it has to be said, but really easy to drink neat, and I would opt to drink it neat. I would not water that down because it didn't take water particularly well. It just kind of emphasised the oak. The cask strength bottling, obviously the standout bottling of the two, really impressive, really intense. Again, verging on the slightly more heavy oak end of the spectrum. But you can't deny the quality of the spirit, and yeah, again, if you happen to sort of live in Australia, and I know that there are some Australian viewers that watch the show, pick yourself up a bottle if you like a great bottle of rum, has to be said, because that was pretty impressive, yeah, fun, great. Really enjoyed this week's episode of the show. I hope you enjoyed the show as well. Like I said, don't think there's going to be any controversy surrounding this week's episode of the show. I think everybody that sent samples will be more than happy with the comments, I hope. And well, if Mr. Simmons does pop round, I'll offer him. Oh, he doesn't drink, does he? I'll have to offer him a cup of tea, I think. Be all English about it, shall we say. Anyway, not much more to say apart from until next week, good afternoon and good dramming.